Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the source material behind what has to be one of the most incredible, paradoxical stories in all of human history. We're tracing the rise and fall of the Mongol Empire. We are going to explore exactly how one man built and eventually lost the largest land empire in history. And honestly, the wildest part of this entire story, it all starts with a starving boy who literally had nothing. No kingdom, no army, not even enough food to survive the winter.
It really begs this compelling question, doesn't it? What if the most powerful empire in history began with a boy who had absolutely nothing? To really understand this, we have to travel back to around the year 1162 to one of the harshest landscapes on Earth, the endless, freezing grasslands of the Central Asian steppe. This was a place where winter killed the weak and survival depended entirely on your strength. There were no permanent cities here, no giant castles, just horses, families, and endless conflict. And into this brutal world, a boy named Temujin was born. Before he even reached adulthood, his father was poisoned by rivals. Almost overnight, his family lost everything. Their own tribe abandoned them. The boy who would one day conquer half the known world spent his early years as a starving outcast on the open steppe, hunted by enemies, and at one point, he was even captured and enslaved.
Part 1. From Starvation to Supreme Ruler. Now, most people would have completely disappeared into the footnotes of history after being enslaved and abandoned out in the freezing cold, but Temujin survived by essentially breaking all the rules. See, traditional steppe culture relied heavily on noble birth and powerful family connections, but Temujin completely flipped the script. He rewarded fierce loyalty over noble birth, and he promoted raw talent instead of just looking at family ties. So the really crucial takeaway here is that this radical shift in strategy brought him a constant, endless stream of new followers. Every single victory brought new allies, and every new alliance just made him stronger. Flash forward to the year 1206. After decades of fierce warfare, nearly every major Mongol tribe recognized this former starving outcast as their supreme leader. He was granted a brand new title, Genghis Khan, meaning the universal ruler. Now, for most leaders, uniting the tribes and getting a cool, legendary title would be the absolute pinnacle of their life's work. They'd retire right there. But Genghis Khan, he was only just getting started. Part 2. The Mongol Military Machine. To really understand this rapid expansion, we have to look at their tactics. On the surface, the Mongol army looked pretty simple, right? Just thousands of guys on horses crossing empty grasslands. But man, appearances were incredibly deceptive. Every single warrior brought multiple horses, meaning they could ride farther and longer than any European army in existence. They communicated seamlessly across huge battlefields using flags, horns, and smoke signals. Their discipline was absolute, and they completely perfected the art of the fake retreat, drawing enemies out before whipping around and just destroying them. Ultimately, unmatched speed became their deadliest weapon. But here's the thing. Speed isn't quite enough when you hit a massive brick wall, and that's exactly what they faced in China. The wealthy northern kingdoms of China had these enormous cities, protected by huge walls, and a lot of people thought no nomadic army could ever defeat them. But look at how systematically the Mongols solved this problem. Step 1, capture enemy engineers. Step 2, force those engineers to teach them the highly complex art of siege warfare. Step 3, combine that lightning-fast cavalry with advanced siege machines. This brilliant adaptation meant that even the absolute strongest fortresses began to fall. Victory after victory transformed the Mongols from mere raiders into actual reigning rulers. Part 3. Conquering the known world. So, with China falling, the Mongol military machine turned its sights westward, sparking a brutal and totally unprecedented era of expansion toward the incredibly powerful Khwarezmian Empire. Now, at first, Genghis Khan actually wanted peaceful trade. He sent merchants and then ambassadors, but the Khwarezmian ruler made a fatal, colossal mistake. He executed the Mongol ambassadors, and Genghis Khan responded with one of history's most devastating military campaigns. City after city fell. Some resisted and were completely wiped out, while others surrendered peacefully and survived. But the psychological impact? It was staggering. Stories of their ruthlessness spread way faster than the horsemen themselves. Entire cities simply surrendered out of sheer terror before a single Mongol arrow was even fired. Fear had literally become another weapon in their arsenal. When you actually map out the astonishing pace of this history, it's almost unbelievable. In 1162, Temujin is born into absolutely nothing. By 1206, he's Genghis Khan. And by 1241, his successor's armies are literally wiping the floor with forces in Eastern Europe. The Mongols seem to appear everywhere at once, vanishing into the horizon and returning without warning. At the battles of Liegnitz and Mohi in 1241, European forces suffered catastrophic, crushing defeats. A lot of people genuinely believed all of Europe would soon fall. But then, the invasion abruptly stopped. Why? Well, not because they were defeated in battle. Thousands of miles away, the great Khan had died. Politics dictated that all the leading princes had to drop everything and return east to choose a new ruler. Europe essentially escaped because of a political technicality, not military resistance.
Part 4, the Pax Mongolica.
Okay, let's shift gears from relentless warfare to the sheer scale of what came next. 1/4. At its absolute greatest extent, the Mongol Empire stretched across roughly a quarter of the Earth's entire land surface. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. No contiguous land empire before or since has ever matched that immense size. And what happens when one single power controls that much land? You get what historians call the Pax Mongolica, or the Mongol Peace. The benefits of this massive interconnectedness were just staggering. They set up an incredibly efficient relay system for messages across the empire, basically creating the world's most intense, high-speed postal service. Merchants were suddenly able to travel farther than ever before in human history. For a lot of traders, travel literally became safer than it had been for centuries. And this allowed the safe, continuous flow of silk, spices, inventions, and really deep knowledge right between the East and the West. This is exactly why this matters. The interconnected modern world as we know it took a massive leap forward right here under Mongol rule.
Part 5, the fall of the empire.
But of course, no empire lasts forever, right? Enormous success created an enormous problem: succession. I mean, who on earth could possibly inherit and manage a quarter of the globe? Genghis Khan had initially divided authority among his sons, but later generations just expanded those divisions. Over time, powerful regional rulers grew increasingly independent. The unified empire slowly fractured into these separate successor states. You've got the Yuan dynasty ruling China, the Golden Horde dominating the Eurasian steppe, the Ilkhanate governing Persia, and the Chagatai Khanate controlling Central Asia. They all shared Mongol origins, sure, but they definitely no longer share the same interests. Civil wars erupted, regional identities ultimately replaced imperial unity, and those super safe trade routes? Yeah, they became much less secure. And then another catastrophe arrived. And there's a truly tragic irony to this. The very trade networks that made the Mongol Empire so unbelievably great and connected Eurasia so successfully ended up unintentionally accelerating the spread of the Black Death. Now, the Mongols obviously did not cause the plague, but their vast interconnected empire sped up the movement of people and goods, which allowed the disease to just devastate populations, economies, and governments across multiple continents. By the late 1300s, the dream of one single united Mongol superpower had vanished completely. Which leaves us with this final, profound question to consider today. Were the Mongols ruthless destroyers, visionary state builders, or maybe both? The Mongol Empire may have disappeared, but they never truly left history. Their military innovations influenced armies for centuries, their diplomatic systems inspired future empires, and they permanently rewired how civilizations connected with each other. History rarely offers us simple heroes or villains. It usually just offers people, capable of unimaginable destruction and extraordinary achievement. A starving boy from the windswept steppe absolutely refused to accept the life history had handed him. And in doing so, he completely changed the map, changed trade, changed war, and changed the world forever.